Hello and welcome. It's our special Edinburgh Fringe Confessions podcast, an audio array of terrible tales from our four top celebrities who were in the BBC tent with us this week in Edinburgh. This week's concise collection includes Sean Keaveney's careless car caper, Marcus Briggstock's food flinging fiasco, Tim Vine's Big Brother bonding, and Russell Kane's shameless schadenfreude. It's all coming up. Who will you forgive? Here on stage at Potterrow in Edinburgh, ladies and gentlemen, Sean Keaveney is joining us on stage. Give him a round of applause, please. Very nervous man. He's here. He's here for his 6 Music Breakfast show. Are you doing it every day, Sean?
That's right, Monday to Friday, Simon.
Monday
yes,
to
7 till 10.
7 till 10, okay. Is it easy to get guests at 7 o'clock in Edinburgh?
As you can imagine, yes, everybody's ready and raring to go at 7 a.m. We have to pre-record quite a lot.
Now, we're kind of taking a punt on live confessions because I haven't done these since Daryl Hall.
What happened to him?
Well, you'll have to see me afterwards. Daryl Hall did a confession which was followed very quickly by Richard Marx, and both of them were illegal. Therefore, live confessions were sort of frowned on from that point, even in the 90s, you know. So we thought, what can go wrong, because you're a BBC man, you know what the implications are, and clearly there's a BBC contract which can be terminated.
That's right, yeah. My current contract is unsigned as well, so I'm in a very tenuous position.
Oh dear.
Very good. Okay, so you're going to be judged, obviously, by the collective here on stage, by the audience, and from the Drive Time listeners as well. But have you thought long and hard about this, or has it been blindingly obvious? Have you been waiting to confess this, or?
Dear Father Simon,
Yes.
Matthew, brethren, apostles, I have a confession to make that has been blackening my soul for over 20 years.
Oh, dear.
Picture the scene. It was 1993. God, I was gorgeous then. And my father had a beautiful Rover 216 car, cherry red. You know that new car smell? It had that. It was gorgeous. He handed me the keys. He said, you can drive that if you want. You can, because I needed to go into Manchester for something, pick up a record. And he flung me the keys. Be careful, son, he said. Don't dent it. I drove off in it with confidence. I've been driving for 2 years at this point. I felt confident. I wasn't going that fast, Simon, I swear. But something caught my attention. I'll tell you what it was a little bit later. I scraped the Rover 216, which was only 18 months old, from the top end to the bottom end, all the way down, destroying both passenger doors, doing £2,000 worth of damage.
In 1990?
In 1993, virtually a write-off, Matthew. Virtually a write-off. The insurance were teetering on writing it off. Well, I was absolutely devastated, and I limped home in the vehicle. I mean, they're discontinued now, you can't get them.
That's true.
I drove home in it, and my heart was in my mouth. It was my dad's pride and joy. I knocked on the door and I told my dad, I said, look, Dad, there's been an issue here. Something terrible's happened. And he looked me in the eye with tears in his eyes. I said, it's not the car, is it? I said, it's the car, Dad. I said, it's the car. He said, what's happened to it? Is there a little dent on it? I said, well, there's sort of, yeah. Sort of a big dent. And he came to look at it, and he was very upset. But the confession part is, Simon, is that I lied to my father at this point. Mm-hmm. I said to him, he said, how did this happen? Well, he was angry. And I said, I've never seen him so angry. And I said, Dad, I've got terrible hay fever. And I sneezed. And I actually, I rammed into this wall.
That's not true, is it?
It's not true, no. Simon. It's not true, Ricky Larray. It's not true, Matthew. It's not true, brethren. It's not true. Because what I did was, there was a Beatles tape in the tape recorder. And the label had gone back on itself like that, and it got wedged in the tape recorder, and I was fiddling about with it. I wasn't paying attention. And that's when I scraped the vehicle. And it's an awful thing to have been carrying all these years. And I'm glad now that I've got this forum to say, dear Father Simon and Matthew and guys, could you please unburden me? Could you please forgive me?
Is this all? So it was a label on a cassette.
It was
which
a label.
you were trying to fiddle with it.
I was just trying to remove it. You know why it was? It's because Yellow Submarine was on.
Oh, yeah.
And it's my least favourite of the Beatles' oeuvre. You know, I wanted to get onto I Feel Fine on the other side. And so I was like, not Yellow Submarine, not Ringo's voice. No offence, Ringo. You know, a little help from my friends is fine, but not Yellow Submarine or Octopus's Garden. And that was what it was. It was, to be honest, it's Ringo's fault.
Yeah.
I see.
Isn't it?
So the confession is you lied to your dad.
That's right.
You obviously couldn't tell him this Ringo diatribe. You couldn't mention that. He loved Ringo, did he?
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, my dad, you know, he's a big Ringo fan. I mean, he's sort of a bit crazy about it. Most people, it's John Paul or, you know, a Push George. My dad's all about Ringo. So if I'd said to my dad, I can't stand, that would have been a double confession.
Oh, no.
I also don't particularly like Ringo Starr. I would have just put the tin hat on it.
Well, okay. So the confession is it's a shocking one. It's huge damage, £2,000 of damage to a Rover, which probably cost about $1,500 in the first place. Lying to your dad. It's a Beatles confession as well. And let's go to Brother Ricky first of all.
Well, Sean, I'm glad you didn't blame Yoko. That's the first thing. I think that's a plus in my book. And this has reminded me of a very dark incident in my own childhood. I did the same thing. But I had a friend who was a panel beater. And I didn't really want to say this, but Mum, I did dent your mini car. So I forgive you. I forgive you, brother.
There's a whole bunch of people who've lied about what's done damage to their cars. Lorraine?
I would like to know, how old were you when this happened?
I was at the tender and beautiful age of 21.
How long had you been driving?
I think 18 months.
You sound like one of the police.
Okay, 18 months.
Breathe into
Well,
this.
I'm tempted to forgive you for that.
Please.
And I like the fact you called the car the vehicle. So I'm going to forgive you too.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm going to forgive
Brother
you.
Matt.
Do you know, let those of us who have not tried to change a music cassette whilst driving cast the first stone.
Exactly.
I mean, I've done something similar with a Quo cassette, and we could argue all night about the positives of Quo over the Beatles. I'm sure. So
Was it a 70s quote?
it was very much 70s
Well,
Quo.
that's
Yeah,
good,
no,
yeah.
absolutely not Booler. Anyway, not going on to that. So I'm going to forgive, because we've all done it.
Yes.
Here, let's welcome Marcus Briggstock to the show. Marcus. Hey, Marcus, how you
Hello.
doing? How you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm fine, thank you, yes.
It's very good to see you, sir. We enjoyed your show very much last night.
Oh, thank you, yeah, it was
terrific.
fun.
And on the basis of that, slightly nervous about, because it's a very personal show that you're doing. And you're
Yes.
not. There's a few rants,
Yeah.
you know, a couple of things that are political, but essentially it's all about you,
Yeah, it is.
and far more sort of confessional.
A little bit confessional, yes.
Yes.
I've always taken the view that comedians who only talk about themselves need to find a more interesting subject, but it turns out I am the most interesting thing in my own life.
Because
So I've stuck to that.
Okay, but it was a great show, and you know Katie, we understand.
I know Katie well. Oddly enough, we became firm friends floating about in the Arctic.
We did.
Of all places, happens to be true. Floating up and down the west coast of Greenland, meeting Inuit people and eating raw seal meat.
This sounds like it must have been for television.
Yeah, there was
No, it wasn't. It
Well,
was
just
just
for
a
fun.
thing.
no, and one of the best things that happened with me and Marcus, that we went to this Inuit museum and they had the kind of traditional clothes on show, and me and Marcus found a zip.
It's true. It's true. Like, all like amazing sealskin clothes, and you're like, wow, how do they do that? Like stitching, just using the skins of the. Oh, a zip. A simple zip. Wonderful. Yeah.
Okay, so the show's very confessional, and so I don't know whether there's something else that you're going to confess, whether it's going to be a particularly embarrassing
Yes.
thing. I don't know if we've checked this through.
I feel genuinely bad about the thing I'm going to confess.
Oh, that's good.
Right?
Yeah.
Does Katie know about it?
No, Katie doesn't know this. I did
So much to choose from,
a.
Marcus.
Yeah, there is. There are some bad things. I did a bad thing, Simon. Should I start? Should I say?
Yeah,
it
yeah,
now?
yeah.
Okay, well, Forgive me, Father Simon, for I have sinned. It's been, well, my whole life since my last confession. Some years ago, I took a holiday in the island of Majorca. It's a very beautiful place, and I was there with my family, and we went to a beautiful bay there called San Telmo, and there are some lovely restaurants, little family-run restaurants, and they're all very cute, and they're just lovely people. And you overlook the bay, and this bay has a little island in the middle of it, and we were sitting there enjoying the Spanish food, the paella and chibarones and all of this stuff, and it was wonderful, and sangria and the whole bit. And then these 3 boats from Magaluf arrived, right? And Magaluf, I can't say what it's also known as because this is an afternoon show. But change the first letter to a sh, and that gives you... so if you can spell, you can be rude, right? These 3 boats, the 3 jumbo boats, arrived, and they bring loads of incredibly noisy people, and they play, we roll off the daddy's bay, like this, and I was livid with them. And then there's this announcement where they go, right, you're going to stop here for 10 minutes, right, you can go ashore and get a postcard and wander around and see some real Spanish people. If you don't touch them now, because they will turn. You know... And it spoiled it. Now, I had, at that time in my possession, that I had found on the internet, an enormous slingshot. And when I say enormous, it took 3 people to fire this thing. 2 to hold either side of this enormous length of rubber with a pouch in the bottom. And I bought, because it was fun just to send them into the bay, some water bombs. And so my brother and my father and I set ourselves up on the edge of this restaurant, and we launched an aerial offensive on the 3 jumbo boats, which were now serving sangria to the people who'd got their postcards. And so we kind of blitzed them with water bombs, which was quite fun, and, you know, they got wet. And that's not the confession. What happened then, Simon, is that unfortunately we ran out of water balloons. Oh, no. And then we needed to find something else to send because they were still singing their awful songs. And so I tried a bread roll from the restaurant. But being light and bready, quite delicious actually, it didn't make the distance. So the only way to make it cover all that distance was to wet it. So I added weight by pouring sangria onto the bread rolls, and then we fired bread rolls, and they formed a beautiful arc like a comet through the Spanish afternoon sun and landed with a hefty splat right in the middle of the 3 jumbo boats. And we hit a lot of people until all the bread had run out, and then we moved on to baked potatoes, and that really may have been a step too far. And so we scattered people off the side of the boat. It was, in many ways, a terrible thing. So I'm here, Simon, to ask forgiveness. Obviously not for bombing them, they were awful, but for wasting bread and potatoes. Food waste is a really key issue. A key issue, and that's really what I'm here to talk about. It was a lovely restaurant, and we just wasted bread that they'd baked with their own fair hand, and the beautiful potatoes which we could have eaten. And so I apologise for having wasted bread and spuds on such awful people.
Because food waste is one of your big issues, isn't it?
It's a big thing. Yeah. It's really important. We throw away 1/3 of what we buy in this country, and I then took that on tour.
OK, it's Marcus Briggstock's confession. It's one of the very rare slingshot confessions that actually ever will make it onto the air, because we're looking at the arbiter of confessional taste here, and if it's got a slingshot or a crossbow or a weapon of any kind, it's not going to get on normally. But it's Marcus's confession. Let's see. Katie Tunstall, personal friend of Marcus Briggstock. Let's see what you think. Should we be forgiving Marcus or not? What do you think?
Well, I have to say, I suspect Marcus has done much, much worse things in his life.
We know that. See his show for details.
And so, really, when it comes to the balance and the bigger picture, I think Marcus should be forgiven for it.
Yes. You know how much I had to filter before I came up with one story that would be acceptable.
Brother Matt.
Bless you, Marcus, for bringing a political message
Yes.
into what is effectively a story about you pelting other people
Yes.
with baked potatoes.
Yes.
Well done for that.
Yes.
I've got to say, there were other things I could think of that were far worse to pelt them with. But I am going to turn this into a class war. I'm going to say that you just didn't like them because you don't like those people on the boat. And so, therefore, you decided there with your sangria and ordering food, doubtless in Spanish, because that's what you do on holiday.
Yes, that's
you
right.
took against them, and I'm going to turn it into that kind of story.
Yes.
And so, therefore, I am not going to forgive. Oh, the audience is with me. Pitchforks at the ready.
You have, sir, correctly identified the fact that I am a colossal snob.
So it's time for another live drive time Edinburgh Fringe confession. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tim Vine. Unaccustomed as you are to rapturous applause.
Oh, this is... I remember what that sounds like now, yes.
Tim, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, how are you?
Very good. This is Matt. This is Eliza.
Matt,
They're the people
Eliza.
going to be judging your confession.
Well, goodness me, yes. I very much enjoyed that song, by the way. Fantastic.
Oh,
I'm
thank
actually, mind you, I'm actually totally deaf, and I never thought him was so that.
The TV... He started now. TV chat
Yes.
show is your big gig here this year.
Yes, it's a chat show where I bring people out of the audience and I interview them about things, well, about themselves. It's hilarious on a good day. Tuesdays.
But is it actually always about you?
Yeah, kind of. No, I just sort of crowbar a few jokes in and, along the way. Give me a profession, see if I've got a joke about it.
Oh, okay. A taxidermist.
Stuff that.
Okay, mate.
That was too easy.
It was. Okay.
Bless you for that one.
Okay, a sports journalist specialising in the Commonwealth Games.
Football, you say? Okay. I went to a football match in Japan. At the end, they started doing martial arts. I said to the next to me, I said, what's going on? He said, there's 2 minutes of ninjury time.
Okay, very good. Okay. Well, we'll let you off that. So, before
Yes.
we do the entire show, because I know we could basically fill between now and 7 o'clock with your stuff. I understand that there is something that you want to confess.
I do.
To the nation, and the nation will be judging, and Eliza and Matt will.
Okay,
will be
yikes.
judging
Okay,
too.
well, you give me the nod when you want to actually start this confession. Obviously, it's quite an emotional thing for me, this.
Start the confession.
Yes.
Nod.
Nod, okay. Dear Father Simon and the Holy Collective, have you seen that new Christian restaurant? It's called The Lord Giveth and also does takeaway. That was an extra joke I thought I'd chuck at the beginning. Yeah.
Is this going to be just
This
stand-up,
is-
or is it going to be a confession?
Hang on, it's a confession.
Okay.
Right. This confession took place on Wednesday, July the 7th, 1982. I know the exact date because I kept a diary for 5 years, from 1981 to 1983. A couple of those years really dragged. I was at school in Epsom, and as you know, life is full of ups and downs. Also at my school was the broadcaster and journalist Jeremy Vine, who coincidentally had the same surname as I did. And even more coincidentally, the same parents. I was 16 at the time of the event in question, and my brother was 17. We were your average teenagers of the 80s. Jeremy liked Elvis Costello, Joy Division, and David Bowie, whereas I liked Jim Reeves and the Muppets. What a band they were. Jeremy watched The Professionals. I favoured the Dukes of Hazzard, which, as we all know, was a far superior show. But there was one thing that united us. We loved to think up pranks to wind up the teachers. We came from quite a strict school. In the school play, you had to put your hand up before you said your line. Huge laugh, move on. So, I'm hoping for more from that one, but anyway. So practical jokes were frowned upon. I remember once somebody hit me with a gold bar. I was the victim of bullying. I'm back. So one day, while letting my mind wander during a torturous attempt to write an essay on Henry VIII, did you know Anne Boleyn had a brother called Tenpin? I began to think of new pranks to play. It was then that I formed the idea that this confession centres on. You see, every morning at school, our housemaster, Mr. Moody, no names have been changed, he would gather the house together in the library, about 70 boys in total. There would then follow a short assembly of notices and prayers, after which we would all traipse dutifully up to lessons. How hilarious it would be, I thought, if during this assembly a pantomime cow were to trot past the library window. I shared this idea with Jeremy, who thought it was brilliant. Hi, this is Jerry Vine. I think that's brilliant. Quite how the next part of the scheme proceeded, I can't really remember, but suffice to say it was decided that the front of the cow would be Jeremy and the back of the cow would be not me, but Jeremy's friend called Titch, who weirdly was a boy of average height. My job would be inside the library where the assembly was taking place. I simply had to wait for the optimum moment and then discreetly open one of the library windows. This was the secret signal for the pantomime cow to begin its lolloping trajectory. So the morning of July the 7th, 1982 arrived. As the house gathered in the library, I stood nervously next to the signal window. And if I leant backwards and looked out, I could just see the edge of a pantomime cow crouching next to the outside wall and the sound of two teenage boys giggling and shushing from within. Everything was in place. The anticipation was almost unbearable. The Mr. Moody then entered the library and a respectful hush fell over the 70 or so boys. It was during a particularly serious notice about the school sanitarium that I lowered the window into its now cow position. And then a sight that I can still remember clearly all these years later, as a pantomime cow trotted half forwards, half sideways past the window. All eyes turned. There was a pause of astonishment that lasted almost 3 seconds, followed by a combination of an enormous laugh and a cheer of surprise from everyone in the library. A sound so joyous, I've spent the last 20 years trying unsuccessfully to recreate it. Now, when I say everyone laughed, that isn't strictly true. Mr. Moody didn't laugh. He stormed out of the library and in pursuit of the cow. The second lasting memory of the event was the moment Mr. Moody, having chased the cow down the grassy slope towards the playing fields, cheered on by 70 boys, caught up with it and with one angry swipe, knocked its head off.
What?
Unfortunately, not literally, just the costume bit.
Oh, right.
I'm not reporting a murder at this stage. Unfortunately for Jeremy and Titch, they were duly frog-marched, or herded, back into school where they were both given the cane. And I don't mean as a present. 6 of the best each. I, as the architect of the event, got off scot-free. So, Father Simon and the Holy Collective, I would like to ask forgiveness for encouraging my brother, the very respected journalist and broadcaster, Mr. Jeremy Vine, to do something he was caned for, while I received no punishment whatsoever. I would also like to ask forgiveness from my brother for not asking his permission to tell this story.
Tim Vine. But your brother's is on holiday.
Is what, sorry?
Jeremy's on holiday, so
Yes.
we did try and contact him to find out if he would give
Yes, I timed it perfectly.
Yes, you did, absolutely. So let's find out from Eliza Doolittle, who is a welcome member. Sister Eliza, you're in the collective just for one day only. Do you forgive Tim Vine or not? What do you think?
I can't not forgive you. It's too funny.
Oh, I like you.
It's his charming way, isn't it? And his smile is just irresistible. Brother Matthew.
Well, a few things here. Number one, well done for getting Dukes of Hazzard into the confession. Nobody's ever managed that before, so well done for that.
Thank you.
What kind of school did you go to where you could just lay your hands on a pantomime cow? That didn't happen in my comprehensive at all. There were no pantomime cows.
I know what you mean. Mind you, I once went to a fancy dress party dressed as sodium chloride, and I walked in, some bloke threw sulphuric acid on my head. I didn't know how to react.
Hey!
The first job I ever had in this business, I was playing the back half of a pantomime wasp. I thought I was the bee's knees, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry,
And off we
I
go. And also, it's got to be a career highlight for the head teacher to be pictured running across a school field and assaulting a pantomime cow. So I'm going to forgive you for that image alone.
And it's another drive time confession. It's another live confession. Would you welcome, please, onto our stage, Mr. Russell Kane, who is here. He's actually here. He's actually with us. Hello, Russell. How are you?
Hello, Father Simon.
How are you?
I'm good. Tired as always. It's that Edinburgh tiredness that sleep does not cure. It's sort of emotional knackeredness from trying to please you lot. Good afternoon.
So we have our Forgiveness Collective. It's not just the audience, but
not
it's
just the congregation.
It's Dan from The Feeling and it's Matt from the
Yes.
show.
Greetings, fathers. Greetings.
And how has your show been going, Russell? Because this is called Smallness, and you have picked we'll get to the confession in just a moment. I'm just intrigued as to why you've picked the smallest venue.
Well, I thought, what can other comedians at my sort of level do that hasn't been done before? Everyone comes up here and goes, I'm at Stadium McStadium over the road. I thought, no one's really come and said, what's the smallest room that will have me for the month? And the Pleasance gave me a 55-seater. So I went in there. The show's about smallness, and I wanted the show to start when people walked in and the space to come in. The one thing I didn't anticipate is the type of people that would book it up in advance by April, and that's the pre-bookers, who are older, more organised, non-drinking, debt-free, and don't laugh. Other than that, well, they're great people.
Well, in comparison, I can tell you everyone...
Not this lot. This lot are a tardy bunch. I'm going to be fine.
Well, absolutely, and they've been drinking for most of the while. Most of them...
I know.
Raise your glasses if you've got some alcohol with you. There you go. So that's a lot of them.
Lady in the front raised her spectacles then. I think she misunderstood.
OK. So, Russ, we're inviting people to come on and do a confession.
I know, I'm nervous about this.
Well, not as nervous as my producer, let me tell you.
Excuse me, I've done Radio 2 lunchtime. I'm very well behaved. My halo is blinding the audience listeners.
I know. OK. Russ, I'll tell you, what is your confession? What is it you'd like us to forgive you for?
Well, Father Simon, I seek forgiveness for the things I did to my younger brother. Now, who are the older siblings in the room? Give me a cheer. There are older siblings in the congregation, Father Simon. And you know what it's like? That 3-year age gap is the worst if you're afflicted with that, because that person is just old enough to be forced to join in with all the stuff, a rubbish, small version of you intruding on your life, following you round, and the revenge begins. And I did some horrific things. And it starts with the type of things you can't be punished for. I used to confuse my mum. Blinking was my special weapon. I would blink at my brother for hours. Doesn't sound like much, but imagine I used to make this noise while I was blinking for hours. When he woke up in the morning, I'd be waiting with his ready bag. It drove him, please stop blinking. And my mum couldn't punish. Stop blinking. I think you'll find it's a body function, Mama. Diplomatic immunity. But after a while, you do want to ramp it up, and look, the things we did when we were kids, we're not proud of them, but you do fight with your younger brother. But of course I wouldn't have been allowed to ever hurt him. I had a dad there as well and a mum, so you find sneaky ways to build in injuries to games. Remember that? Oh, I'm sorry, I cuddled my brother a bit too hard and now his eyes have gone milky. Things like that. Playing a football game. Oh, I'll just do the tackle now. Oh, I'm sorry, I appear to have hurt your ankle. Come on, let's play jump off the wall, the really high wall. Even though your legs are shorter than mine, your turn. Oh no, Mum, we're going to play Dance Around the Rusty Spike. Remember that one? Dance around the rusty spike until the music stops. Oh no, you'll be staying in for weeks. So I would lure him. Remember, this was the oppression. I was an emotionally needy child. Hold on, there's photos being taken, listeners. I'm just posing. And I would lure him into situations where I would look best. I'm not proud. This is a confession after all. It'd be a bit weird if I came up and did something I was proud of. But there was one particular occasion, Father Simon, where I was playing Going Red on Purpose. It was one of my party pieces. I can't be the only one. Some of you have forgotten the joy of going red on purpose. Do you remember? Just going red. I was what I call a purpler. Fat neck, purple face. Some of you in the room who think you're too old to have fun, go home. When you're brushing your teeth tonight, have one last blast of Going Red on Purpose in the mirror. It's one of life's free buzzes. I'm so dizzy. That was amazing, man. It's like the 60s. Anyway, going red. It was my trick. And my friends were staying over. We're all about 8 years old, maybe 9. We're in the kitchen, standing around in a circle. I'm going red on purpose. It was a nice night. We'd been on it a bit of Horlicks, a few rich teas. I'm not going to lie. It was a nice level. And my brother's walked in. And he's like, I want to join in going red on purpose. Now, he was the only person who could go red on purpose better than me. And you know the rules of comedy. The smaller the person doing the physical comedy, the funnier it is. I didn't make those rules. But my brother he could go mahogany. Full neck vein, head vein, looked like his head was going to explode. Stop it, you're going to hurt yourself. I know what I'm doing. One of those. Anyway, he came in wearing the same pyjamas as me. Who gives matching pyjamas to different age siblings? Who? Twins is the cut-off, parents. Twins. Anyway, sorry. That's just an aside, Mum, if you're listening. And I'm over it now. I don't know why I mentioned it. And James, my brother, has stepped into the middle, and all my friends have stood round, and they're already laughing because we've all been going red on purpose. I'm the champion of it. And he stood in the middle and went, I'm going to show you going red on purpose. And I feel so bad that I hold this as one of the moments of natural justice of my life. This is what I seek forgiveness for feeling pleasure at this moment. He stood in the middle and went, watch this, everyone, and pooed himself in front of all my friends. Father Simon, please forgive me for feeling pleasure at that moment on behalf of my brother.
Okay, well, it's Russell Kane's confession. It sounds like the audience have already made up their mind. Let's find out from Dan from The Feeling. Dan, can you forgive Russell Kane for that?
Oh, it nearly made me poo myself just now. So
Okay, that's...
I don't think I can, no.
We move on from the toiletry functions. So you're forgiving?
No, definitely
No,
not.
you're not forgiving. Okay, so that's 0-1. What are you saying? Matt?
I have a younger sibling, and I mean, I don't know how old or how many years between you and your younger sibling. Mine is 7, and we had matching clothes.
You never did?
Felt that pain.
Well, yeah, not a good look. So I'm a huge amount of sympathy, but I never got my brother to do that. So I am going to forgive. I am going to forgive just because. Just because it made me laugh a lot.
Ironically, more feeling than the previous judge.
Very good. Okay, so it's going to... Well, the people's verdict on 88-91. However, the audience, please, if you forgive Russell, you can cheer, and if you don't, you can boo. Can you do it now, please? Russell, consider yourself forgiven.
Thank you very much, Father Simon.
That was it. Pretty spectacular and with added audience fun. Let us know what you think and send in your own confessions, because heaven knows you've got enough. It's confessions@bbc.co.uk. More for you next week. Don't forget to download the Weekly Mayo. It's available now. It's a deluxe special this week after our foray into the Edinburgh Fringe.